All right, good evening. Welcome to the Superintendent Contract Subcommittee of the Brockton School Committee for March 30th. I apologize for the late start. We just finished up finance for those that weren't with us already. And of course, that's a big part of our job, and we want to make sure we give that all of the attention that it certainly deserves. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and state of emergency, on March 12, 2020, Governor Baker issued an executive order temporarily suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GL Chapter 30A, Section 20. Pursuant to the order, public bodies are temporarily relieved from the open meeting law's requirement that meetings be held in public places, open and physically accessible to the public, so long as measures are taken to ensure public access to the body's deliberations through adequate alternative means. This meeting will be held and will be accessible to the public via Brockton Community Access, Brockton Public Schools website, www.bpsma.org, YouTube, and Comcast Channel 98. The public can access this meeting via this link, www.youtube.com/TheBrocktonChannels. I should have that committed to memory by now. Okay. Let me call the roll to establish that we are a quorum. Mayor Sullivan.
Here.
Vice Chair D'Agostino is present. Ms. Asak.
Present.
Mrs. Mendez.
Present.
Mr. Minicello.
Present.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Present.
Mrs. Sullivan.
Present.
Mr. Sullivan.
Present.
Thank you.
Present.
All right. We are a quorum. So, our Superintendent Contract Subcommittee for the evening, 3 agenda items. We have Superintendent Goal Setting Process for the next evaluation cycle, other business for this subcommittee, and then this committee on item number 3 will go into executive session. So, we have with us this evening Dr. Connors and Carrie Kopp to join us and kind of get the discussion going. If you guys want to take the floor.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. How are you?
Okay. And I know Carrie's here too.
Yes, hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Sure.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. Can everyone see that okay?
Yep, you're great.
All right. So here we are again. I feel like we just did this a few months ago, not too long ago. And now we're getting ready for the next evaluation cycle to commence on July 1st. So we just wanted to take a couple of minutes and review the process with you. The superintendent is evaluated annually in 2 key areas. One is progress towards the goals that he sets, a student learning goal, a professional practice goal, and generally 2 to 4 district improvement goals, as well as performance on each of the 4 standards that are connected to the superintendent and district administrator rubric. And the process begins with a self-assessment of work that was done in the past, progress towards those past goals, which he has reviewed with you, goal setting with his executive team and leadership team, proposing those goals, and then ideally, and I think we'll be on track this year, on July 1st, the implementation of that plan begins. This is just a quick screenshot of the rubric, and we will get all of the necessary documents to you going forward so that you have them. So the 2 main pieces tonight when we spoke with Mr. D'Agostino was really to begin this process and what steps need to take place. But also probably most importantly for Carrie and I to support your work is to get feedback from you on the last evaluation cycle and how we can support you in the process moving forward. So the key pieces between now and ideally June 30th are for the superintendent to engage in the self-assessment and goal proposing with his executive team to you, presenting that to the school committee, which can be done in a subcommittee meeting and then a full school committee meeting where hopefully the school committee adopts those goals. So the work primarily to begin will be with the superintendent and his leadership team, where he will assess his practice over the past year, looking at the rubric, identifying strengths in the rubric as well as areas that could be further developed in his practice as superintendent, looking at data on student learning, as I heard it mentioned in the previous meeting, and we talk a lot amongst ourselves as leaders and with our teachers and students. Data is critical in proposing these goals. Past progress on district goals and other relevant evidence, for example, the district review, which did call out a lot of areas where our school district can continue to grow. In doing that self-assessment, the superintendent will draft 4 to 6 SMART goals. One will be the student learning goal, the second will be a professional practice goal, and then 2 to 4, no more than 4 district improvement goals. When the superintendent comes to you with the proposed goals, he will also identify key actions, timelines in making progress towards those goals, benchmarks that you can look towards to better measure the progress on those goals, and the outcomes that hopefully will be clearer. You know, this last evaluation cycle, understandably, was very difficult given the pandemic. But hopefully setting those outcomes so that when it does come time to evaluate him a year from now, you can look at those outcomes and have a clearer idea of the extent to which the superintendent made progress on those goals. It will be completely fine. I heard the superintendent mention in the previous meeting in rebuilding the district is certainly at least a 3-year process. And so some goals that the superintendent may bring forward might just be multi-year goals, and there is certainly room, despite the fact that this is an annual plan. Part of those benchmarks could be, at the end of year 1, the progress towards this goal could be X, and so that is absolutely suitable. Once the superintendent has met with his team, proposes those goals, you would then come together in another subcommittee meeting where the superintendent would present his proposed goals to you, engage in discussion, any modifications that you see need to be made. You would adopt those goals at that subcommittee meeting, and then they would be presented at a full school committee meeting. When Carrie and I met and understanding the process that happened over the past year, we highly recommend, if possible, that tonight you establish a timeline where you let the superintendent know, okay, on this date, please come to us with your self-assessment and your proposed goals. Then you set a date for, at which full school committee meeting those goals will be presented. And then go ahead and set a date now for the mid-cycle review, which would typically be around December. So if you get those on your calendars now, I think it will just help you all streamline the process. Again, that's just our recommendation. Before we move to the feedback, are there any questions in that process? Or Carrie, anything I missed?
Nope, nice work.
All right.
All right. So probably, as I mentioned, one of the most important pieces is how do Carrie and I, as the EduVal specialists, support your work in evaluating the superintendent to strengthen the process that we took you through last year to make it better for you to engage in.
All right. So I know just the feedback that I heard from the last evaluation from the members of the committee, and obviously everybody's here and free to chime in on their own behalf, but the feedback that I was given personally was a couple of items. One, a better mechanism for the superintendent to basically give evidence, and then, obviously we can ask for more evidence as individual members feel they need it. But a good mechanism, and we've struggled with this, I think, in the past for a couple different reasons, a lot of it technology related, to have a good format for evidence to be submitted to us. So that would be one item. The second item is we went from basically like almost like a paper, if I remember right, format to the electronic SharePoint document we used last year, which was great. But the feedback that I got from some of you was you better be in for the long haul when you open that document because you can't save it and come back later. And so this is not something that you do in 20 minutes. This is a very long, well thought out, looking at documentation, thinking back, looking at your own notes on. I mean, it should take you some time to properly and truly do a superintendent evaluation. So if there's a format that we can use that would allow members of the committee to maybe be able to save their work and come back later to add to their work, that would be helpful. So those are the two items I know I heard from all of you, and feel free to jump in, anybody that wants to provide some additional feedback.
I wanted to say one thing that was very helpful was how open you ladies were to being able to communicate directly with you, and how open you were to, if we needed. I know myself, I struggled because of the language, and I got a lot of just being able to talk on the phone helped, or just having an extra meeting booked. In regards to what you're saying, Mark D'Agostino, I think the long haul, you know how you have to save and come back. I'm not sure that's going to be something that they're going to change for the next cycle of evaluation. But one thing that I did, I would just add the comments to like a document. So I had it in a Word document, and then I would literally copy and paste it, because it does take a long time. It's not going to be like a 20-minute thing. A feedback that I do have, I know you talked about the better mechanism to collect the evidence. I would say, at least like for my first coming around it, I thought it was like, it's like, so when my perspective of evaluating, right? It's like you are evaluating the superintendent, but at the same time, you're evaluating his executive team. So I think some meetings like this incorporated among the evaluation would be great, just to like look at evidence together, look at the goals, like not just have one meeting and then, okay, this is what you guys got to do and this is when it's due, but maybe incorporate more meetings throughout the year so we can start collecting data on our own with the help of you ladies. And that way our feedback could be much more productive, and it doesn't feel like it's us trying to remember a whole year's evidence.
Okay. Is there any reason we couldn't, just as a superintendent contract committee, have ongoing discussions, or even during the evaluation process, meet and have discussion? Is there anything that would prevent us from doing that?
No. Can I jump in a little and just answer
Sure.
to that?
Go ahead.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. One of the things actually Michelle and I talked at great length about, and I think one of the things she recommended was putting some dates on the calendar right out of the gate to allow for sort of a more efficient process, and those incremental check-ins. I also think the building of evidence in a team site, I do think it would behoove the committee, this would just be my recommendation, to become more familiar with Microsoft Teams, because we can build a team site where this evidence can be uploaded now, where we could be setting the goals. Once the goals are set, that evidence can start to be put in there now. We were at a sort of deficit with regard to the timeline this last time. I think we learned a lot, and we can put in place some things that can make it a lot easier for members of the committee to have the time, although time seems like a luxury, the time to look through evidence and make those comments and have a running Word document that then could go into a final product. So I definitely think there are things we can do to make it more efficient technically, and also more incremental, so that we're not only talking about it at the end.
Right.
And part of those, with that incremental piece that Carrie mentioned, and then I just heard a couple mentions in the comments, when the superintendent crafts his goals and creates benchmarks, those benchmarks could also almost become check-ins where you say, okay, Superintendent Thomas, you stated that this goal, your benchmark would be, November 15th. And so it will just take a little more of a coordinated effort, which, that's what Carrie and I are here to do, is to support that coordinated effort and kind of keeping the process moving forward and reminding, coming back and saying, okay, let's get a meeting on the calendar so you can check in. And, to Ms. Mendez's point, let's talk about this benchmark. Where are we? Where do we stand? And so you can start to gather that anecdotal evidence or data as you move through, so that when you do a mid-cycle, you're looking at July to December evidence, benchmarks, progress towards those goals, so that when you come to the end of cycle, you've already gone through half of the process, so it becomes less of a cumbersome point. Carrie and I can certainly set up the team site. We can train you in its use. It is super easy. And we can have it organized very efficiently so that it is laid out very clearly with files for each goal, with the standards for your ease of use. And then in terms of the feedback form, I do like what Ms. Mendez mentioned. She kind of took her notes and kept her thoughts in a Word document and copied and pasted. But Carrie and I can work together to create more of a template that does provide for more individual use in working in a process over time, but that also enables us to get all of that data together for Mr. D'Agostino to then go through and aggregate to put the final report together.
That all sounds good. Any other, Mrs. Sullivan?
I just wanted to thank Dr. Connors and Carrie. I think they do a great job, and they're always there. If you need help, they're always there. They get right back to you. So I don't think it's something that members should be discussing, because it's your evaluation of the superintendent. And I just want to thank them, because they've been doing it for, I think, something like 5 years or more. And I think they do a great job, and they're always there for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sullivan. Anybody else? Thoughts, comments about the process before we get into, obviously we need to, put some dates on the calendar, but I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to chime in before we get to that. No? Okay. Okay. So yeah, I think let's set some dates. So I think it looks like, the first thing would be self-assessment and development of goals. And what's a reasonable time frame? I know, Mike, you're in the back of the room here, but I want to make sure that we set this up in a time frame that is doable and reasonable, and not, hey, next week you'll have your goals, right?
No, I'm fine anytime after the April vacation.
After when?
April vacation, anytime after that, I'd be ready.
Okay. All right, so if we figure the first Tuesday in May, we have a full school committee meeting, and where we only meet once in April, I'm assuming that could be a packed agenda. So why don't we plan for maybe the second Tuesday in May? Would that work?
Absolutely.
For our next contract meeting, and you'll be able to present the goals. So
Yep.
that actual date, my battery's a little low. Come on, don't die on me now. 11th of May? I'm like, man, these glasses aren't strong enough anymore. All right, so May 11th, and I assume we'll still have finance at 6, so would we do 7 o'clock work for everybody for a superintendent contract at 7?
You might be able to do 6 because
Oh, if we're shooting for the budget to be done by
finance,
then.
yeah, and if we would always put a finance meeting after that,
Yeah, all right,
But
let's
our
plan that
budget
for
should be
6.
submitted by then.
Because if for some reason we aren't done with the budget, but you're right, just in case, if hopefully we're done and it doesn't matter. Sorry, I'm so used to finance going into August, it just. All right, 6 p.m. May 11th. Everybody good with that for the presentation of the self-assessment and development of goals? That works for you, Mike? Perfect. Then we need a date for presentation and adoption of the goals.
And that can take place at the full school committee meeting. If he presents them at the subcommittee meeting on the 11th, you can,
We do
you know,
that
if
the
you feel
18th.
good at that point, you can certainly, make your motion to adopt them, and then they can be presented at the next full school committee meeting. I don't know if you might want to do a placeholder in between, but that's up to the committee.
I mean, would you all want to adopt them at the following meeting, which would be the 18th, or do you want to skip and go in? That would put us to the first Tuesday of June. I mean, do you guys feel like you'd need time to chew on it, or would we be good? I don't want to rush, but at the same time, I don't want to drag it out for 6 months either. Is everybody comfortable with May 18th for the adoption? So if I'm not mistaken, Dr. Connor, this would be in the full meeting where we would adopt, be made the full school committee meeting on May 18th.
Yes.
Presentation and adoption of the goals, right. Is that, everybody good with that? Mike? Yeah. All right. Sounds good. And then the last thing is the mid-cycle review, which is obviously the part where the work comes in. So are we, your recommended deadline for tonight, are you suggesting we set a deadline for when the review will be presented publicly, or when the reviews will be done? Like, what's...
You would want to do a subcommittee meeting, late November, early December, so the superintendent can present to you first before it goes to the full committee.
Right, okay.
The full committee meeting. So just generally, December is a guideline. It's not a fast and hard deadline. It's just that typically December, January represents the midpoint of his evaluation cycle.
Right. All right. So why don't we, just trying to think, assuming school starts normal next year, which I know is a big assumption, and I know we're pushing this way out, and so why don't we plan for, and we can obviously move it because it's so far away, but if you're looking at December, maybe the 14th would be the subcommittee. And again, obviously, as we get closer to that date, we can adjust it as needed. Anybody have any objection there? All right.
We want to, we're going into an election season and a legislative session change in January, so I don't think we want to go too far out because there could be a different makeup, there could be a different mayor, there could be different school committee members.
Right.
Right.
And that's why I don't want to do it in January, because I think if you have new people come on, and then they've got to do a mid-cycle on a superintendent that they don't know anything about, Right, I think we want to get this done in December while we know that all these people are still here. So I think that would make more sense.
Point of information, if I could run it to Dr. Connors. Michelle, this is Bob. Doesn't Mike have to be evaluated before the end of the fiscal year, not calendar year?
So his evaluation cycle is July 1st to June 30th, which is the fiscal year.
Right. So that's one of the questions I was going to ask is, we've always, I know when we were evaluating Kathy, it was always this time of year that she was
Right.
being evaluated, and it ties to a raise, which would start July 1. So
So,
don't think I wasn't thinking of that. I certainly was. We were getting to that. Don't worry.
right, and so that's kind of one of the things that I've been thinking about, where this past year was so convoluted, for lack of a better word. Where do, and this is I guess a question for the superintendent, a question for the committee, where does he stand in terms of that? He just was evaluated and a raise was attached to that, but I don't know where was that from December of
That was
2019.
prior. We have to do an evaluation.
So then we need to
Do an end of
do
cycle.
a 2020, 2021 evaluation
We do, yes.
process again
Yep.
sometime between now and June 30th.
Right. What got delayed, I think, was the mid cycle, which ended up going way too long. But with everything we had that we were dealing with, COVID related, that was, and as everybody saw, it was tough to evaluate on non-COVID goals during COVID times. But so yeah, we do have to evaluate him between now and the end of the fiscal.
So
per his
I
contract.
could come to you before the vacation with
Yeah.
goals.
So what we need to talk about, though, is we never engaged in this full process. So, Carrie and I can do whatever everyone needs us to do. I just don't know what that needs to look like.
Well, I mean, I think we need to look at the tool that we had before, see what we can do to adjust that. We need to look at what evidence, and how we can get that evidence to everybody. Again, I don't know, it may be too short of a timeline for teams and building a team site. I don't know. You guys tell us. I'm not familiar with how that piece works. Is it too short of a timeline to change the process from, and make these adjustments that we've talked about to the process?
Well, we can certainly, Carrie and I can put our heads together on the technology side of things, at least in terms of the process to collect the feedback from the members of the committee, recognizing that the use of forms did not enable people to work for a little bit of time, step away, and then come back to it. So Carrie and I can certainly work on a different format for the collection of that feedback.
All right.
I'll just say Carrie and I are pretty good. We can put whatever you need us to put together whenever you need it done. We just have to really maybe talk that out as to what works best for you to fairly evaluate the superintendent. And then he can share his raise with Carrie and I afterwards.
Yeah, maybe I'll get a cup of coffee out of it or something.
Yeah, a small cup, Carrie. Small cup.
With no cream or sugar, just
No,
coffee.
and don't ask for a donut or anything like that or a muffin.
Right. I mean, it's the starvation. I mean, the fasting diet.
Don't even.
So, I mean, I think this end of cycle coming up is an evaluation on the current goals as they stand, correct? No? Michelle? Oh, did we lose him?
But sorry,
Yeah.
couldn't
All right,
I'm having
I
a
was
hard
like-
time hearing.
Sorry. So the review that we would be doing now in the next couple of months would be on the current goals that exist and have been already adopted, but it's just the end of cycle review, correct?
Yes. So we can easily take has been presented before, the goals that are in place. So the superintendent kind of has two tasks to do. He needs to bring together his evidence for the current goals he has in place while he is working towards proposing new goals, which is typical.
All right.
That's fine.
Right. All right. So we've laid out the mid-cycle for December and the timeline of the new goals and all of that. So now we need a timeline of your end of cycle for 2020, 2021. You'll be ready to. Okay. All right. So 2 weeks from tonight. What's that? Let me see. 2 weeks from tonight is April 12th. So you want to do it the Wednesday the 13th? No, Tuesday's. Oh, Jesus. How did I get on April 2022? Jesus Christ. April 13th. Thank you. All right. April 13th. be the review, or so we'll have a superintendent contract meeting. All right, and we don't have a regular committee, so we could do that, but we probably will have finance. So I'd assume we'd want to do that at 7. Okay. You want to do finance after? Right. Yeah, all right, I agree. So we'll do this at 6, finance at 7. Okay. I hope you're getting this, Melinda, because I'm not going to be able to read this chicken scratch later. Right. What? Oh, okay. All right, so, yeah, just let me know that. All right, so there's already a 7. Do we? The contract meeting? Yeah, that's the other option, is we just do contract on Wednesday. I mean, if we've already got a 7 and we've already got a 6, you know. All right, so, yeah, Wednesday at 6. Is that all right with everyone? Okay. All right. And so you'll be ready to present to us on that night. And then from there, will you guys be ready to, pretty much at that point or soon after, have the technology updated and ready to go for us to then start our process?
Yeah, I can work on a shell of a team site right now and organize it appropriately. It would just be a matter of needing to support the committee with the technology and how to sort of navigate a team site. But that's easy enough for us to create.
All right.
Absolutely.
So, and again, it sounds like we've got other subcommittee meetings. Oh no, we are going on the. So we're going actually, since we're going on the 14th now, on Wednesday, and there's nothing else on that evening at this point. So would we be able to? You think it'd be too much for you to do your presentation and then for you guys to review the technology piece on the evaluation tool the same night?
Yes.
That'd be fine.
That'd be hard?
Oh, great.
Oh, that'd be
Yeah,
fine?
we can make that happen.
You can make that happen? All right, rather than dragging it out another week, let's just get that done that night. That way, the committee members are ready to rock and roll and we can get this moving. All right, so that's good. We'll have that for the 14th. And then maybe
We would just ask Mr. D'Agostino that all members of the committee bring their laptops with them to that meeting.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. And Melinda, if you wouldn't mind, when you send that out, reminding everybody to bring, yeah, like you read my mind. And then, all right, so if that's the case, we have that wrapped up the 14th.
Mark, I just have a question. For the superintendent subcommittee, is there any way that we could do it a little earlier?
Which one?
For the April 14th, just because I have a commitment at 6:30. Can we do like a 5? I don't know if that's okay with everybody. I know
I
that
think in the past when we've done 5s, a few members of the committee have relayed that they
can't do it.
because
Okay.
of work. Yeah, 5:30 is the earliest, from what I understand, that everybody can, because of professional commitments, do. We could do 5:30.
It's 5:30,
But if you have
no.
a 6:30, I don't know that an hour is going to quite cover it.
Mr. Vice Chairman, I want it to be conducive to everybody on the
Right.
committee, so why don't we just take a roll to see, if it doesn't work for Joyce and it doesn't work for Cynthia, why don't we do Thursday then, if that works for everybody, just to accommodate, because this is so important, we want everybody engaged.
Right. So 15th, all right, so I'm just going to go around the room. 15th, Mr. Minicello. No? All right, well. Cynthia, does that work for you?
At 6 p.m. on Thursday, the
I
15th?
was slow on the button.
That's all right. Does the 15th at 6 work for you, Tom?
It works just fine.
All right, and Cynthia, that's good for you?
Yes.
All right, it appears to be good for me. Tony? Yes. All right, Judy? Joyce?
Mark, can you give us that date again?
Never mind, that date doesn't work.
I mean, I could reschedule the DRE subcommittee. We'll just keep it at 7 p.m. that Tuesday. I'll talk to Melinda on the side and reschedule it.
All right, thank you, I appreciate
Yeah.
that. I really do. All right, so, but let's just make sure, so that we're back to Tuesday the 13th. Does that work for everybody? Does anybody object to Tuesday the 13th? Okay. So, if we get that all done, Tuesday the 13th. All right. Is May 7th reasonable for you all to do the evaluation and have it completed? That's basically 3 weeks later. No. How long?
And Carrie and I will be around, you know, whatever the committee needs for support during that time. You know, we're available, you know, to meet, for phone calls, text support, whatever's needed. You know, Carrie and I will have you ready to go on whatever date you just decided on. I think it came to be the 13th. We will be ready to go there to support you and get you started with technology, and then throughout the process over the coming weeks so that you can access everything, get the feedback all together. And I think it can be done in 3 weeks, knowing that Carrie and I are here to support you.
Well, that's what I want to ask the committee. What does everybody think they need? Well, the second meeting in May? The second meeting in May is the 18th. Okay. Okay.
I think we just ratify it by the end of May. I mean, it doesn't have to be finalized until the end of June. So to
No.
give everybody time, I mean, no harm, no foul. Why don't we just do it late May?
Well, that's why I'm asking everybody, how long does everybody think they need? Does everybody feel, is a month adequate? Does that work? Right.
There's a lot going on, you know, the month of April and May, so obviously it does take time, so I would agree with the end of May, with the mayor.
All right. So do we just want to go right to the end of May, say the 31st? It's the last day of May. That would be I mean, that's like 6 weeks. Well, I'm talking about the timeline to have the evaluations completed so that I can do what I got to do. So if we do the 31st of May, thank you. Well, right, exactly. You got all weekend, that last weekend to do it. So why don't we go with the 31st of May, because then I need time to do my part of it, and then I have to work with Dr. Connors and Carrie on that piece of it. You know, so again, I don't want to go too far into June if we want to be able to have this thing done basically at the June 15th meeting, because we don't have another full school committee meeting after that.
Just remember, it's likely that the council president will have budget hearings probably the first week of June. I haven't confirmed it with Councilor Fowle, and I know a lot of the school committee members like to be there the night that the budget is ratified.
And those are on Mondays, correct? Oh, right, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Right, exactly. So we should have it ready for the last week in June, because if everybody's done on the 31st, that gives me time to put it all together. And I think, if I remember right, it has to go to this subcommittee and then back out to the full committee. But that's all right. We can throw a contract subcommittee in that second week of June. We'll figure out the date. We don't have to pencil that in right this second, as long as we have these main dates done. So April 13th, May 31st is when it's due to me, and then I'll do my thing and work with the both of you to have everything ready for basically, in about a week or so we can follow that timeline and get that done by the last meeting of June, because then we're going to need to ratify that because it's the 31st, so we got to get that done. Okay. Anything else?
Can you go over those dates one more time?
I can, sure, Mr. Sullivan. It's April 13th will be the next Superintendent Contract Subcommittee. The superintendent will present to us, and then Carrie and Dr. Connors will also present to us, and we'll bring our laptops, and that way they can give us kind of a tutorial on how to use the Teams site and you know, the technology behind the process. Then I'll want everybody to complete their evaluations and have them done by the end of day, you know, on the 31st. And that will give me not much time, but I'll make it work. Yeah, I'll be due for a vacation that time. I'll take a few days off. I don't know. I'll make it work. That'll give me time to do what I got to do to put that together and work with Dr. Connors and Carrie. And then on the 18th is a full school committee meeting where I'll do the presentation of the evaluation as we did and I think it was December. Does that work? All right. Okay.
Mr. Vice Chairman, can you hear me?
What's that?
Mr. Vice Chairman, can you hear me? Mr. Vice Chairman,
I can't hear you. I think we got like feedback that's repeating. Jesus. Okay. I think we're okay there. All right. So are we
Mr.
good
Vice
on...
Chairman, could you hear me?
Oh, there you are. Okay, go ahead.
May 31st is a holiday on my calendar. It's a Monday night and it's a
It's not a meeting. It's just when I want everybody to have it in by. So you can do it before that. I mean, it's... Yeah, it's I guess it's Memorial Day. Right, but I mean, you can have it done before that if you want. I mean, you know, look, I don't mean to get frustrated here, but we're gonna be doing this in October. We'll be doing them both mid-cycle and this together. So, you know, if you don't want to have to deal with it that weekend, do it the weekend before. I don't know how else to accommodate everybody on this. What's this? Yeah, I mean, you can just do it earlier than that. I think you all know what I'll be doing Memorial Day weekend, though. Starting to put them all together. All right. Anything else on item number 1? Okay. Thank God. Thank you very much, Dr. Connors and Carrie, for joining us and working with us on this. As always, you are a vital part of this process, and we appreciate all your effort. I certainly... you know, given the role that I have in this process, really, really appreciate having the two of you. You know, I can't begin to say how helpful you were to me in the last one, and I know you'll be on this one. So really, really, truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. D'Agostino. We're happy to help. We're here for anything everyone needs. Just reach out to us, and we will be in touch.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
Is there any other business to come before Superintendent Contract Subcommittee?
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, well, hold on. We got to go into executive session. Item number 3. Okay. Oh, I guess I should take this with me, right? All right. So item number 3, the school committee will go into executive session. The committee will enter executive session pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, for the purpose of conducting strategy with respect to collective bargaining. As such, conducting this deliberation in open session would have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the committee. The committee will not return to open session following the executive session. So we need a motion to go into executive session. We have a second.
Second?
Motion to go into executive session and by Mayor Sullivan, seconded by Judy Sullivan. We'll call the roll. Mayor Sullivan.
Yes.
D'Agostino is a yes. Ms. Asak.
Yes.
Mrs. Mendez.
Yes.
Mr. Minicello.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan.
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan.
yes.
Okay, the committee is in executive session.
Yes.